So, for the next one, we'll go ahead and head to Isaiah chapter 6, or rather, chapter 7, verse 14, on the part where it says, "And shall conceive." So, what is this part here that Isaiah is talking about in this? That shall conceive. Remember, I'm breaking this down for you bit by bit of this verse so we can show you exactly what this means versus what has been falsely taught by some false rabbis. So, Isaiah 7:14, where it says, "shall conceive." So, of course, we see in Isaiah chapter 8 where it says, "the prophetess, and she conceived." But this is not talking specifically about a prophetess. Isaiah 7, verse 14, again, does not specify a prophetess. It says a virgin, not a prophetess. So, on that part there, it can be also explained furthermore in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, which says, "Unto us a child is born." So, what does that particularly mean? That is a prophecy. That is not something, of course, that happened with Isaiah's own son, but this is actually talking about prophetical something else that would already happen too at a later time period. So, for this part there, shall conceive, not a prophetess, a virgin. So, in Matthew chapter 1, verse 25, we can read in part of this, not the whole thing, "and knew her not until she had brought forth her firstborn." Of course, the passage also does continue on beyond that, but I'm going to what's particular in this for this video. So, "and knew her not till she had brought forth her firstborn." And for this, we can also continue on to Luke chapter 2, verse 7. Luke chapter 2, verse 7. "And she brought forth her firstborn." And this one in particular is not a prophetess, but was the virgin prophesied about in Isaiah. So that's what this specific thing is about. So, and we're going to continue with this as well. Since I actually have more than the time this year, I was going to split this into two different things, but I'm going to keep it as one since it only took 2.5 minutes to say that part there. So for the next part, "and bear a son." Okay, well, we can see in Isaiah chapter 8 that the prophetess of Isaiah did indeed bear him a son. But again, this prophetess was not a virgin. It doesn't say that the prophetess was a virgin. It says, "I went unto the prophetess, and she conceived, and bare a son." So you would think that that would be the prophecy being fulfilled, which is not the specific prophecy being fulfilled of this particular instance of Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. "Unto us a son is given." Again, this is about a prophetess. This is not about a virgin. It does not say that prophetess was a virgin. But Mary, who was a virgin, says, brought her forth her firstborn son. Mary, who was not a prophetess, but was a virgin, which is the exact prophecies that's being foretold by Isaiah. And also for that, we can still also go to Luke chapter 2, verse 7. "And she brought forth her firstborn son." So there you go. So the things of Isaiah with his prophecies is actually alluding to Mary, was prophesying about Mary, not the prophetess that Isaiah himself was with. So in this part here, again, bearing a son, Matthew chapter 1, verse 25, as well as Luke chapter 2, verse 7. So that's what that part is on the conception and also bearing a son. Was not at all about the prophetess that Isaiah was with. It was all about the later time period of Mary, who was the virgin, not a prophetess. The prophetess is not a virgin, and the virgin was not a prophetess. So there you go. Now, on to the next one. And for the next one, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Well, let's see here. That's Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Was Isaiah's son, or whatever, called Emmanuel? Was Isaiah's son named Emmanuel? Well, let's check this out, shall we? And by this, you will know for sure whether this prophecy was about Isaiah's son or someone else's. So, Isaiah 7, verse 14, and shall call his name Emmanuel. And for those of you who do not know, Emmanuel is Hebrew and also Paleo-Hebrew, which in English translates directly to God with us. So, was Isaiah's son called this? Well, let's see here. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 3. We'll just start off with that one. And I went unto the prophetess, and she conceived and bare a son. Then said the Lord to me, call his name Maher-shala Hashbaz. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Maher-shala Hashbaz. That does not sound like God is telling Isaiah to call his son Emmanuel. Because I did not just read that and I don't see that in there. So, I mean, unless somehow some rabbi wants to fit the word Emmanuel into the place where Mahab Sherbala Sadabalamata is. Sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of the name. I just really have a hard time pronouncing it. So, I'm really horrible with names. I'm sorry. I'm not perfect. But, yeah. I'll just call that one Mr. M. So, obviously in here, Isaiah's son was not called Emmanuel, was not called God with us. And for those of you who do not know, Isaiah actually had two sons, not just one. So this one here, this Maher-shala-Bahaz, was actually his second son, which goes forth into saying the prophetess was definitely not what the scripture would call a virgin. And we already know by the definition of the scripture and by the scripture what a virgin is, and not something that the rabbi made up. So, and for those of you who needed a recollection of it, according to the scriptures, such as Adam with Eve, twice. Adam knowing Eve, not knowing Eve. There you go. I mean, she had not been touched by man. So, in this case, if the prophetess of Isaiah, if this was her second son, his second son, that means this son of his is definitely not that prophesied son. That means this prophetess is definitely not a virgin. So, that's definitely a prophecy about a future son. Can this be backed up? Well, sure. All you gotta do is look in Matthew and in Luke, and we'll know through those scriptures that during this time of Mary and Joseph, that before, or actually until after the time of Yeshua being born, Joseph and Mary did not commit to coitus. So they did not know each other in intimate ways before the birth of Yeshua. It was until after the birth of Yeshua that they actually were able to get together intimately. So before then, yes, Mary was a virgin. Not a prophetess, but she was indeed a virgin. And Yeshua is called God with us. He was and is the very flesh of God, one of the four parts of God. And therefore he is with us. But he even said, even so the days of the end, I'll be with you, God with us. So what was Isaiah's first son's name? Isaiah's first son's name, believe it or not, Sha'er Jashub, thy son. Sha'er Jashub was the first son of Isaiah. And it doesn't specifically state who the mother during his time was, but if it's the same person as the prophetess that Isaiah went to the second round, then that means this was her firstborn. And there is absolutely no prophesying about the firstborn son. So this had nothing to do with their firstborn son. So Matthew chapter 1, verse 21, that's where they call him Yeshua. Yeshua was translated directly into English as God saves, which has been mistranslated into the King James Version Bible and most other scriptures as the word Jesus, but Jesus is not the correct name. It is just a Greek translation of a term and not of a name that means son of Zeus. So, under the name Jesus shall no flesh be saved. You can't be saved under a son of Zeus, and Zeus had many sons, according to the Greek mythology. But according to Hebrew, Jewish, and Israelite type of terminology, Yeshua is the only correct name that there is, because Yeshua does not mean son of Zeus. It literally means God saves. And you can find that in the complete Jewish Bible too. Again, in Matthew chapter 1, verse 23, and also 28:20, is where Yeshua himself says, I will be with you. So, now you know the truth for yourself. You're very welcome. I'm very happy to have dispersed and denounced the doctrines of the devils before this, and I'm happy to show you the light of the truth of the gospel of Christ. Christ, which is also a Greek word, Christ is a Greek term as well, which actually does translate to what it's supposed to translate to in English as well. So, its actual origination of the name, coming from the Hebrew, which extends also into the English, does mean Messiah. So, Christ is correct. As to where you know Jesus is not correct, Yeshua is correct. So, just to help you out more further on that part too. And I actually do have further videos before this to show you guys the correct of the namings and what the names themselves mean. So you're more than welcome to check that out in the videos before this, and you'll find out for yourself. So, and for those of you who are trying to figure out which one it is, it's under the video of is Jesus the correct name. So you look for that video, there you go, and you'll find out the truth as well. So, and from here on out, it's up to you, the viewer, watching this, to actually go the correct way and actually say the correct name. It might take some time for you to actually say the correct name, but once you start saying it and get used to it yourself, then it'll become habit, and then all of a sudden saying the name Jesus, it'll be like saying a foreign name. It'd be like saying Captain Pizza Hut. So it'd be like, who's that? They don't mean anything to me. And of course, we all know what Pizza Hut is. I'm just using that as just a throw-off term. But once you start saying the name Yeshua and start getting used to that, then you'll actually be more accustomed to saying the correct name under the correct meaning. So, and I hope you guys learned a lot from this, and I hope that this as well disperses and denounces any and every doctrine of every devil that tries to say otherwise. So, again, it's not Jesus, it's Yeshua. You want to go with correct stuff and not go with something incorrect. So you're not going to go into a McDonald's and expect a Whopper. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate the love and support. And as always, love and peace. Till next we meet.